Good guy, that Mike Garafolo. That would be the NFL Network's Mike Garafolo joining us from Los Angeles. Great to see you, my friend. This was wild. First 3 picks of the draft, all quarterbacks. That's not necessarily a surprise. The big surprise came at number 8, Mike, when the Falcons shocked the entire football world and took Michael Penix Jr. after just giving Kirk Cousins a 4-year, $180 million deal in the offseason. Overall, help me explain Atlanta's thinking here. What are they thinking taking Penix Jr. when they've got Cousins already?
There's a lot of buzz, Jay, that Arthur Blank, the owner of the Atlanta Falcons, was one of the driving forces behind this pick. And what are you going to say if the boss comes to you and says that this is the guy that he likes? It's kind of hard to kind of deny that, especially after he wrote the checks to get Kirk Cousins into Atlanta as a free agent. Now, Cousins' agent was shocked by this. I spoke to him tonight during the first round. He said, yeah, it was a big surprise. We had no idea this was coming. The truth is, the whole league had no idea this was coming. We got no heads up. Kirk got a call from the Falcons when they were on the clock. That was the first we heard. It never came up in conversation. He also said there were 250,000 fans in Detroit. He says, I've got 250,000 texts on my phone. So, look, there was an indication that the Falcons were potentially going to be in play for a quarterback, and that Penix was a possibility. I didn't think it was going to happen at 8. I thought it was going to be a trade back scenario. It was shocking to me that they stayed put and took him at 8. It was shocking to Cousins' agent, Mike McCartney. It was shocking to Cousins. I got to see how this dynamic plays out. It was a 4-year deal, but there's 2 guaranteed years in the deal. Basically, what the Falcons did was say, Kirk Cousins, you are an extremely expensive bridge quarterback. You're going to be our guy for the next 2 years, but Michael Penix, the quarterback of the future. There's just so many things that this potentially brings up, not the least of which is that general manager Terry Fontenot had needs across the roster, decided to use the pick on a quarterback that, again, probably won't play for 1, if not 2 years.
And then the quarterback run continued after Penix. Mike, as we know, the Vikings got their guy in J.J. McCarthy, the guy everyone knew they wanted. Bo Nix goes to the Denver Broncos. Were you surprised, Mike, that 6 quarterbacks were ultimately taken in the first round? And I guess my follow-up question to that is, were there teams that you felt maybe missed out on this historic quarterback run?
I was not surprised that 6 went. I thought there would be 6 in the first round. I did not think that they would go in the first dozen picks. Jay, you talked about that 1983 draft. I have a feeling that this quarterback class is going to rival that 83. And I know what I'm saying. I know some of the legends that were in that quarterback class, but I just look at these guys and where they went, and they just went to great situations. Whether it was Caleb Williams up top, the Bears are stacked from an offensive roster standpoint, only got better by adding wide receiver Rome Odunze with the 9th overall pick. Then you look at Jaden Daniels, matching him and his skill set with Cliff Kingsbury. I think that's a great match. Drake May in New England feels like a great fit. I think he's got the tools to be a great leader as a quarterback. You talk about Penix in Atlanta. We'll see about that one. But J.J. McCarthy gets great targets to throw to in Minnesota, as well as Kevin O'Connell, the head coach. And you talked about Bo Nix, pairing him with Sean Payton. Look, he had a 77% completion percentage last year at Oregon. This is a guy that has a great decision-making process. I think that's going to pair well with Payton. So all these guys went to great spots. Who missed out? Did the Giants miss out? They took Malik Neighbors, the wide receiver. They passed over both Penix and J.J. McCarthy and went with the receiver because they still believe Daniel Jones is going to be ready for week 1. We'll see if in the end they regret that when we revisit this draft a couple of years from now. But for now, they are very happy to have added a weapon. Daniel Jones has not had enough of them to have added a weapon for Daniel Jones.
Mike, it has been a tough week for Jacksonville Jaguars Chief Football Strategy Officer Tony Khan. This is something that your colleague Rich Eisen took notice of.
As Tony Khan becomes the first ever NFL executive in a draft room, shaking off the effects of a pile driver he received on national television in a wrestling ring the night before. Such is life when you mix AEW and the NFL. Tony Khan, hang in there, buddy.
And that, of course, Tony Khan is the owner of AEW, and you see AEW right here on TSN all the time. So how do you think Tony Khan did making the first NFL pick while wearing a neck brace, selecting wideout Brian Thomas Jr. from LSU.
Fantastic. You know, he had that neck brace on, and I didn't know the story at the time. I was quickly caught up because I've been just so locked into the draft. I haven't been catching up with my AEW wrestling, but thankfully the draft is, at least the first round is over, and the second and third round and everything else will be done. I'll catch up next week. But when I saw that, I said, did Tony Khan get into a car accident? And his lawyer said, hey, do yourself a favor and wear this around as we go through the legal proceedings. Because he's looking all around when he's got the neck. And then I caught up. I said, oh, okay. Well, what a brave soul to really soldier on and be in the draft room despite that pile driver to the neck area there. We talked about Latu's neck, the UCLA defensive end, and everything that he had been through. Listen, the real war of attrition is Tony Khan battling through what he had to battle through to be in that draft room tonight.
I got to say, Mike, I mean, that is committing to the bit. That's what Tony Khan does. He's been on this show. He's a terrific guy. Mike, you're a terrific guy, too. And this is amazing. It will not be long until we get to see these players in action. Training camps opening at the end of July. I can't wait. But for now, Mike, thanks for this. And get home safe, okay?
You got it. Thank you, Jay. Appreciate it.